Hello, you little Cassie engineer. Persona 5 is a turn-based RPG My Atlas. It was released on the PS3 and then was ported to the PS4. This game follows a gang of rebels coming together to use their spiritual power, called personas, the reflection of their true selves, in order to redeem bad people and to get them to confess to their crimes, via literally diving into their psyche and causing them to have a change of heart. The game was received to amazing critical reception, and with time it became one of the most well-known and beloved RPGs of all time. The game has plenty of visual metaphors for deeper concepts, but the most interesting of these visual metaphors would be masks. Alongside being a recurring motif for characters, they're also used as a physical representation of breaking free. When a Phantom Thieves gains their spiritual power and their funny haha JoJo ghost, they first have to rip out their masks in a very bloody fashion before getting their inner strength to fight back against the evils of the world. I think this would be a good point to explain what a persona is. Persona is the root word for personality, and according to Carl Jung, it is the way we present ourselves to social environments. Within a social environment, Jung described it as a kind of mask designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. And this is what masks represent in short inside Persona 5. Masks in Persona 5 allow people to summon their personas as their own rebel spirits that give them power to move forward, and the narrative pushes personas as neither a good nor a bad thing. Within the music, Beneath the Mask is the first song that we see follows this theme. It plays like Café LeBlanc and a song that delves into the ideas of masks. Its thesis is that personas hide shallower interiors, and the existence of personas undercuts the existence of individuals. With lyrics such as
I'm a sharpshooter, what else should I be? Please don't take off my mask, revealing dark.
That one can become formless once they rely on their mask to define who they are. This is an interesting idea because this is a conversation that can be applied to everyone in one way or another. For a simple example, you wouldn't speak to your boss in the same way you would speak to a good friend when you're messing around. In most scenarios, you're still you. But which one would you consider to be the true you? Some would argue that when you're with your friend, you're the true you, because you're letting loose. But if you act differently around two different friends, and they're both equally as close? What if you have something you don't want one friend to know? Does that make you any less of you? Arguably, the more masks you have and apply, the base of that mask becomes less and less defined, until the masks start working off of one another and start ouroboring each other as creating more masks based upon a mask. But I'd argue that's not a bad thing. We are creatures of experience. Humans learn and change from what they've seen, and there's no such thing as two absolutely mirrored or equal humans. Our experiences are what give us tools to create the mask, and those experiences are just as much as part of us as the physical aspect. We learn from a young age to respect figures of authority, therefore when you get a boss, you know that you should be polite to them. But to take this to a philosophical extreme, if someone held you at gunpoint and told you to shoot someone, and you do, did you truly shoot them? In a physical sense, yes, you did, as your physical thumb pulled the trigger while your hands aimed at the person. But in a mental sense, you could argue you didn't, because you were being forced by someone else to pull the trigger. This could then be rebutted by saying you did, because you could have chosen not to aim the gun at the person and had to fight back against the person holding you at gunpoint. This presents the disconnect between the literal world, the physical world, and the world in our minds, and how we see ourselves within these worlds. What we define as real isn't actually reliant on being quantifiable. Instead, it's reliant on us collectively believing in something. This is how the idea of time is able to be set as real. Because we all agree seconds are the way seconds are measured. You would not argue that 1, 2, 3, 4 are in a row, but if you put them outside of a row, they're not in a row. Yet, as a conscious sight, we think, yes, the reality is that 1 comes before 2, and 3 comes after 2. B5 delves into this idea of collective unconsciousness, and at the same time it argues that Not every mass is created by individuals. If you were taught from a young age to respect authority, that means that society creates your persona. And if society teaches you to repress something, it stops you from being yourself and it's forcing a mask onto you. Correct societies stop rebellions by teaching them that the status quo is as good as it gets. Even if it's unfair for individuals, even if it's obviously not a good situation, if you believe that's the best it's gonna get, you're less likely to risk anything. Corruption is allowed to persist by people not rejecting the masses put onto them, by not questioning their masks or personas, by simply being content with your life as it is. They are doomed to live in stagnation, and you're stopped from truly being yourself under your mask. This societal mask can also carry a weight that will wear you out. That's the world can expect you to be certain things, and the personas you have are all directly created by outsiders. It can make someone feel as if they're the burden, not the mask on them. And this isn't to say that all societal masks are bad, but it's a level of self-reflection that's needed to say, yes, wearing clothes is good, as opposed to saying, yes, we should undoubtedly accept corporations' treatment of employees. Wake Up, Get Out There had the same theme, but a different answer.
Let your voices ring out, yeah. Take the mask off and be free. Find yourself in the debris. If your heart on life will change. Wake up, get up, yeah.
One learns and grows from hardship, and hardship comes about as a result of change. A scientific concept that relates closely to this is in biology, when we observe feedback loops. A positive feedback loop is doomed to repeat itself, as nothing forces it to adapt or change. Meanwhile, positive change can only be achieved when negative feedback is introduced. Freedom is directly tied to the amount of safety one has. The more free someone is, the less safety they actually have to protect them. And the same applies to being free and true to yourself. You will have to find yourself in the rubble when you bring down the towers of safety. Be them discovering who you are and trying to approach people about it. Or even something as major as putting your safety at risk to protest for something you truly believe in. If your personality is born from your experiences, then your values are born from hardship. And your persona is born from how you approach what is ahead of you. And I believe that's what Persona 5's masks mean. They're physical manifestations of subconscious struggles we experience, and how we struggle with ourselves and selves. To take that mask off and be bare is what Persona 5 is truly trying to encourage. To become yourself if you want to fight against injustice you've seen in the world, and you think about yourself and look to the world surrounding you. It is important to be able to differentiate rebellion for the sake of rebellion and rebellion for the sake of expression. In an artistic sense, it's important to understand where your art is coming from, and that applies to every aspect of humanity. If you're doing a job, if you're doing a hobby, if you're doing anything, you need to be able to properly comprehend what you're doing before you fuck this ranting.